election of officers. And historically in the past, we've tended to, done that just based on seniority to some extent. However, it does not need to be that way. So the first thing is, so we need to elect a chair, vice chair, secretary, and alternate secretary. For nomination of, go ahead, Jim.
I move that Brian Rader be the chair, Richard Smith, vice chair, Harry McAllister, secretary, and Bill Barnett, alternative secretary.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Jim, thank you.
You're welcome.
The next item is, we can see we have all the meeting dates. They've been set.
Let's do introductions, Ryan.
Oh, very good.
Wrap Miss Collins in here.
Okay. And Sharon, you're so good. Why don't we let you, we're going to go around, and if everyone can just take a quick moment to introduce themselves. And Sharon, I'll let you go first.
Okay. My name is Sharon Collins. I've lived in the area for about 23, 24 years. And I'm an empty nester now. So I have the time to participate with this, and I'm really glad to be on the board.
Perfect. And Rich, how about you?
Yes, hi. Welcome to the Planning Commission, Sharon.
Thank you.
I've been in State College for the last 12 years, and I'm currently a math and science teacher in 6th grade at Park Forest Middle School. And this is my second term on the Planning Commission.
Perfect. Thank you, Rich. And Jim?
I want to welcome Sharon also. My name is James Payne. I go by Jim. I've lived in Park Forest for, I always lose track, well over 20 years. Got involved following the Planning Commission and then wound up on the Planning Commission after Patton Crossing and being on the Citizens Advisory Committee. That's about it. Also empty nester, but I've got 2 grandkids in Connecticut that we try and get up to see as much as possible.
Very good. And I always appreciated Jim's attendance to the Planning Commission for many months before he served, maybe even a year or so.
Well over a year.
Well over a year, exactly. Who do we have next? Bill Barnett. How about you introduce yourself?
So I think I'm probably I've lived in State College the least amount here. We moved into the area in 2014. My wife took a position being a physician, and now she actually works from home. I moved into the area, joined up with the Alpha Fire Company. I was on the hearings board previous to this, and I work as an attorney out of my home. So that's basically me.
Perfect. Fix my camera. All right. So thank you, everybody. And again, Sharon, welcome aboard. We appreciate your input and your willingness to serve.
Thank you.
Let's, for Sharon's benefit, let's go ahead and do the staff members too. Other than me, Sharon knows me. But why don't we go through the rest of them, starting with Nicole Pollock.
Hello there, I'm Nicole Pollock. I work for the Center Regional Planning Agency, so I split my time here in Patton Township with 50% of my time and then 50% on regional projects. I've been in the area only since July of 2019, which is actually kind of weird to think so much time has already passed, but that's fine. It's loving every minute of it. Before I came here, I did work for Cranberry Township as a planning and land development specialist there for a short time. And that's that's really all I got going on. So I'll just move over to Alex.
Hello, Sharon. My name is Alexandra Castrocini. I'm the Assistant Township Engineer. I've been with Patton Township for about 1.5 years, same as Nicole. Prior to my work here, I worked at PennDOT for 9 years. And I'll pass the baton off to whoever's next.
How about Anita? You've given so much of your time. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Anita Teese. I'm a member of the Board of Supervisors, and I like to just listen in to see what's coming to us. I was appointed to the board last April, and like Jim Payne, kind of got immersed in the township as part of the Patton Crossing Citizens Advisory Committee. Nicole and I are co-chairing this new Patton Township Housing Task Force, and we've just had the board approve 18 members to it, and are happy that Jim Payne will be the Planning Commission representative to it. So you'll just see me watching in, but not talking for your Planning Commission. I appreciate all that the Planning Commission is doing, and it gives me a sense of what will be coming to the board. So thank you.
Thank you. And Stephen.
I am Steve Casson. I'm the Public Works Director and Township Engineer at Patton Township. I was started here in 2016, actually, and have been here ever since. Actually, a resident of the township, and yeah, before that, I was an engineer for another municipal authority.
Very good. Mr. Sauter.
I'm Ken Soder, I'm Patton Township Zoning Officer. I actually originally grew up in State College, moved to Montana, moved back, and been working for Patton Township since 1999.
I like your years of experience and vast knowledge. And Doug, I guess we might first CNET, our CNET audience.
Sure. I'm Doug Erickson. I'm Township Manager. I started with the township in 1998 as Public Works Director, and I've been the manager since 2006. Just welcome everybody to another year. Hopefully it's better than 2020.
Very good. Thank you, everyone.
And also Nicole Harder, Secretary. Who
So I was going to say, Ryan, don't forget Nicole, because she's the one, the glue that holds everything together.
I couldn't agree more. I'm going on. There we are. Go ahead, Nicole.
Hi, I'm Nicole Harder. I'm the Public Works Secretary. I've been here almost 14 years. I've been involved with various forms of in previous positions to get me here. I live outside of State College. I actually live closer to Lamar. And my newest activity is playing Mario Kart with my children in hopes that they don't blow up my character.
Did we get everybody? I think so. All right. Thank you, everyone, for taking a moment to introduce yourself. And our next item of business is just the meeting dates that have been set aside for 2021. And we factored in some need to move a few of them due to holidays that you'll see at the top of page 3 of 7. Does anyone have any comments, questions about the meetings that have been set as the meeting dates? And I guess it's safe to assume that we're just going to continue to do Zoom until further notice. At some point, historically, the meetings, when they do become in person again, the time will likely be in the evening.
I do have a question on the work sessions, since for the most part, we do work sessions after the regular meetings, yet they're always on the calendar, and I have been asked a couple of times about that.
That's a great question.
Should we not have them on the calendar unless we actually have a work session later or not?
Do you want to weigh in on that? It's always been like that, but I don't have an answer as to why.
Well, we need to advertise them as meetings. So we generally do a single advertisement for all the board and PC meetings. I will tell you, back in the day, 15 years ago, 2 meetings a month was barely enough to get done all the work we had to do. So it's just it's a function of how much land development activity is out there. Normally what we would do is, on the first Monday of the month, we'd take care of the actual business, and then the second Monday would be the work session where we'd work on new things or, things that are in development. So I would say at this point, just leave them on. People ask, you can just give them that same story if you want, but they're there if we need them.
Okay.
Better safe than sorry, it sounds like. Correct, Doug? There's a chance we could meet them, and therefore we have them posted.
Yeah, we have to advertise all the public meetings. They need to be advertised in advance. So from a legal standpoint, it's easier just to do them all at once and cheaper.
Got it.
And advertise each one. To advertise them each individually is probably $150 a piece or something like that. So
I have a question. On work sessions, do you get an agenda for those as well or not?
yeah, they'll be, if you notice, like for today, there's the work session is just attached to the regular meeting. We'll take care of the work session items today. If we had a separate meeting, you'd get a separate agenda.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, same format that you'd get. Except generally in work sessions, the planning commission is not going to take any formal action on anything. It's more for information gathering, discussions, and asking questions and figuring out what we need to do next.
Okay, thank you.
So Sharon, it would be a high likelihood that the work session will always follow the planning commission meeting.
Okay.
Any further comments, thoughts on the schedule? That good, then let's move ahead. Next item of business is the Center Region Planning Commission. And what that entails is it's really a liaison between Patton Township and the surrounding municipalities within the Center Region, where we would go. In 2020, I represented Patton Township and would just go to those meetings and give an update. And then also it was helpful because I would receive updates of all the other municipalities that are in the Center Region. So right now we have myself doing that again, and we've got, looks like we've got Rich, you are on as well as alternate. Rich, if it would, I would like to split those dates with you. Is there anyone that has an interest in going to the Center Region Planning Commission meetings? I don't mind going to half of them, but I probably would like to just maybe do about half.
Yeah, I'm fine splitting but if there's someone else that would like to take the other half of the meetings or not, I'm fine with any option going forward.
I'd be happy to go to a few of them. I don't know.
All right.
Now, are those ones being done Zoom as well during the age of COVID?
Yeah, Sharon, they're done. They are being done in Zoom format. And here it says 7 p.m. But ever since we've been doing the Zoom meetings, they're often actually at noon.
Those ones are at noon. Okay.
Yeah, they're going back to 7 p.m. Brian. I double checked with that when I was writing this agenda. Yeah.
Yeah, because if they're at noon, Brian, unless I can find a sixth grader to run my class.
Yeah.
I'm sure you could find one, just maybe not an efficient one.
I'm just trying to find a head coach right now for my football team.
So why don't between, Nicole, would you be able to just send us a sign-up sheet, and then between Sharon?
Well, wait, they're gonna really want a rep and then an alternate. So we can have more than one alternate, but I think we need to have a primary rep, and we can probably have two alternates. And, but they'll want to know who to send, because I have to send the agendas out to everybody because we don't know who's going to be. So why don't we do it? If we can do it that way, that would work best.
Okay, why don't I then, I'll be primary, and then we'll have two alternates, Rich and Sharon.
Yeah, that's fine, Brian, and you can communicate days of conflict, and Sharon and I can go from there.
Yeah, that
That
sounds.
works for you, Sharon.
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay, cool.
Thank you. Next item, approval of minutes. Do we have any questions, comments on meetings from the December 7th? Any minutes from the December 7th meeting? If not, can I have a motion to approve?
I will make a motion to approve the December 7th Planning Commission minutes.
Second.
Second.
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Number 4, next item is public comments. I don't know if we have anyone, doesn't look like we have anyone else that's on the Zoom call. Am I correct? Is there anyone that's on the Zoom call that wants public comments?
Not see anything.
Moving forward, so next item of business is the Grays Woods Plan Community. And for that, we have Mr. Pratt.
Do you want me to give a brief intro into that?
I'm sorry, yes, please.
So yes, this is Grays Point Phase 6D Final Land Development Plan. It will be in the Grays Point neighborhood, which we have seen several of the previous phases come through. This one proposes 15 single-family and 68 multifamily townhome lots. It will consist of extending Dolomite Drive and Phoebe Road from Woodthrust Way to Jack Pine Way. And the 3 previous phases that we have seen were all approved by the Board of Supervisors. And this phase is also in accordance with the most recent master plan. And as Brian mentioned, we do have Michael Pratt here to present to you or answer any questions you have.
I'll just briefly add, this is the 4th and final subphase of Phase 6, the 2021 edition. Phase 6A was approved in 2018, 6B in 2019, 6C in 2020. This phase proposes 83 units, 15 more single family and 68 multifamily, which upon approval would bring us to 522 units in Grays Wood. This also proposes some additional common open space, which would bring us to a total of 147 acres in Grays Woods. It's a continuation of the lot pattern set by the previous 3 phases. Stormwater management and utilities provided in the same fashion, 2 existing basins, an extension of sewer and water service. Road connections will be effectuated through Jack Pine Way, Woodthrush Way, and then a cross connection to Camus Drive in Phase 6B. So this will complete the loop pattern in Phase 6A of Grays Point.
Thank you, Mr. Pratt.
Questions?
Planning Commission members, any questions, comments?
My only question or comment is there any concerns from staff as to this?
Other than what's been suggested in terms of the recommendations? Bill, is that your question?
Mm-hmm.
We had all of our concerns addressed we met with Michael Pratt and sent him our letter. So I think we're good speaking on the staff end.
Okay.
Brian, if staff is happy, then I would move to approve.
Do we have a second?
I agree. Second, thank you.
Let's all vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? So moved. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Next item of business is the Abington Equine Hospital. And that is been presented to us before. Does anyone want to give us a quick comment on that?
Well, that's right in my backyard.
I was going to say the only quick comment that I've got is I have a few friends that are horse owners. When they found out about this, they're ecstatic. So apparently there is a need for equine hospitals in our area.
When this first came to us, I was excited because I think it's also bringing in people from outside the area that are going to come, and they're going to, be here for however many days, maybe weeks. So I think it's a nice influx of money coming into the area in the hotel for hotel restaurants. But before we get to that, I guess, Mr. Myers, did you want to elaborate?
Yeah, basically there's not very many equine hospitals. The closest one's probably down in Philly, and then the other big one around is up in Cornell. So it's definitely, hitting a niche market. There's definitely a need. And what we found out, in the end of November is the local equine only vet here in the county retired at the end of the year. So she's kind of, hitting strides with picking up, the business left over from Center Equine. But that's since it's a 6,300 square foot equine hospital, which will serve, the community, around, and gives them, different options rather than going to, Philly or Cornell. There's an arena that she'll utilize for evaluating the animals when they come in, during night, day, whatever they have to. It's nothing's supposed to be used for public use at all. It's all private use, for our own personal use, for the facility. Not planning on renting stalls out or anything like that, but I can answer any other questions you guys have.
I guess I have a couple quick questions. One is, so 6,300, can you, Mike or Bob, can you give us some, how does that compare in terms of the sizes of the Cornell and the Philly hospitals? Are we about the same size, smaller?
I have no idea personally, but I would guess, both of those are a collegiate setting. So I would guess, that they may be larger than what, this is, just because they are, at colleges. But I can't answer that.
And then, do you know, so if we go to the north, we have Cornell, and then obviously the east, we have Philly. Do you know where the nearest equine hospital will be to the south and west of us?
I know Dr. Catt indicated that there is a small private practice maybe out near Somerset. But, that's a very small practice. Really, there's nothing, nothing in the area. I've grew up riding horses here in the area, and, Scott McAllister at Center Equine was basically the only, equine vet, strictly equine vet around. Now that he's retiring, she's, stepping in and gonna hopefully fill that void left by him.
Do you think, I know this is hard to answer, but do you think we'll get many people from outside the state coming to this facility?
It's definitely a possibility. I live down in Penns Valley, but the Grange Fair has really, over the last 5 years, 10 years, is expanding their horse facility. They have shows in there, national shows that come in there week after week after week. So you're going to have a lot of outside people, coming into those shows. And if something would happen, and word of mouth's going to get around as, once she's up and running, if there's an emergency, there's an emergency. I mean, some stuff you can schedule, but, if, it's a 20-hour drive or something to go to Cornell and they can't get you in until when, and she fits the bill, it's definitely going to give people options for sure.
What about the university? So all the horses at the university that, I guess they're also going outside the area for treatment, for surgeries?
Like Penn State, I mean, they have their own equine vets on staff. I don't know if they get into doing surgery like on their own stuff or not.
Interesting. Other planning commission members, any other thoughts, concerns, questions?
Before we get too far along then, Brian, there's probably two things we wanted to make sure that we got some input from the planning commission on. One, we looked at it, it fits the district fairly well, but we don't have a box to put this in. That's why this is actually going through as a conditional use. The one question staff has is a conditional use gives a set of setbacks. But in agriculture, if this were strictly an agricultural facility where we were raising cattle or any other animal or so forth, the front yard setback would be much larger and the side yard setback would be larger. So what staff was asking the planning commission, we wanted you folks to weigh in and let us know if you feel that the larger agricultural setback should be imposed or if the more lenient conditional use setbacks should be imposed. As part of the conditional use, this is where it gives the township some ability to adjust where they think things should be. Same as the regulations regarding parking. Our parking regulations really don't speak to a horse equine hospital. So we let the applicant give us a list of the number of people they think are going to be at the facility working. And they came up with 13 parking stalls. They do have some areas where they can park trailers and so forth as well on the site. So the parking really, I don't foresee there, any questions with, but the setbacks are really something we wanted you folks to look at and give us, your opinion and weigh in on where they really should be.
So Ken, when you said that it's typically 100 feet, and in this instance it would be 40, why did they make the A1 100? And do you personally see any type of problem with this setup of it going back to 40?
I can make the case for both ways very easily. So that's why we wanted to make sure that you folks looked at it, have an idea, and can weigh in on it. The front yard setback being 100 feet and some of the side yard setbacks being larger and so forth, it was looked at as a production agricultural facility where we could have, a 1,000 hog farrowing facility, or we could have a 300 cow dairy facility.
So, Ken, I'm looking at, excuse me, I'm looking at the 3 of 11, 11 by, I believe this is 11 by 14 or 11 by 17 sheet. It looks to me that from Buffalo Run Road, it looks to me that the facility's already set back well beyond 100 feet. Is that correct?
Yes, they are, but this is going to set precedence and go forward with this facility in the future if they would intend to enlarge or put other buildings on the site.
Oh, okay. So does this mean they're not going to be putting houses up there anymore? I thought that they were going to be putting houses up there, and they've been putting like a lot of flags and.
No, The owner is looking at potentially building a home for herself,
Okay.
but that's what they have stated. And Mr. Myers can probably speak to that a little bit more, but I know as far as when we looked at sewage planning, we looked at potentially having this entity there as well as a single family home.
Oh, okay. Because this is right out my back door. I love,
Yep.
you know, I love looking at the barn, and it's been really nice to see the horse activity. I would hate to see buildings too close down to 550. I don't think it would be advantageous to get rid of all that pasture land, because that's where the horses seem to be running on between the barn and 550. You know, that 100-foot setback, or better than 100 foot at the point for the time being. But
So, Ken, the way this has been done now is it's been done as an agricultural facility. Is that correct in my thinking?
We don't have anything in zoning that speaks to an equine hospital. So we have to look at it. A horse is not a pet we take into our home, so it lends itself more to agriculture.
Mhm.
But the equine hospital, people are bringing animals there, taking them back. Those animals aren't really going to be staying there a great deal. There is the potential that I believe the veterinarian does have 5 animals that she keeps on site that are, I believe, ovum donors.
And if I recall from previous conversations to us and stuff on presenting this hospital, she's going to use the barn that's already up above for her horses and stuff. So.
Correct.
so in the hospital, that looks like on the plans that it was behind the barn, just a little bit behind the barn.
No, it's actually in front of the barn, Sharon.
Oh, it's going to be so that is still needs to be constructed. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
The larger area is indicated is below, or I should say the arena is behind, and then the facility is closer to the road.
But Ken, how far, right now it's proposed, how many feet from the road is it now? The proposed?
Do you want
Over 100.
I believe the equine hospital is roughly 200 feet off the road.
Oh. So it wouldn't hamper their plans at all if they just keep it at the agricultural at 100 feet minimum, right?
No, I mean, if you look at the grading plan, there's a stormwater basin that's between the hospital and the road because, you know,
Yeah.
water runs downhill. So in essence, there's, you know, the only place to put the stormwater, you know, off a facility would be along 550. You know, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, from a setback point of view, I mean, really the buildings can't, you know, come too close in this situation, you know, due to the slope and the topography of the land. You know, water runs downhill. It's got to be, you know, treated, captured, released at a slower rate, you know, before it leaves the property. So, you know, even in the future, even if the, you know, the setbacks weren't, you know, if the setbacks were 40, you know, there's not a whole lot of room. If you go to like sheet 5, there's not a whole lot of room that any building really could be built any closer, you know, than that. I mean, you got off to the right of the driveway, you got the sewer, the sanitary, that's where their treatment system will be for that, you know, so that pushes everything back there, you know, south of the equine hospital's the storm basin, you know, so there is a, you know, a small area off to the west of that, but there's a sanitary easement for a replacement site for the adjacent lot in that area too. So really, I mean, it really closes down the, you know, where they can develop anything. And it's, you know, if anywhere, it's, you know, further back on the property.
This is Doug, if I can flip in. when Ken is talking about the future, he means the next 100 years.
Mhm.
That's how far you have to look out. Because if you set the setbacks at 40 feet today, they'll always be 40 feet. Or
Correct.
set them at 100, they'll be 100. But, you know, so given what this place, what might happen in the next 100 years, calculate that in your thinking. Not just the next 5 or 10 or 20 years, it's 100 years or beyond.
Well, if
So
we
my-
set it at 100, did it for the agricultural, and like 50 years down the road, somebody wanted to make changes, they could always apply to make those changes at that time, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And none of the stormwater management right now is affected. If we were to keep it at 100 feet, does that change anything on this current plan?
I don't believe so.
No, it just basically affects lines on the paper because the side yard setbacks are going to increase as well as the front yard.
I guess from a township standpoint, I don't see the advantage of agreeing to 40 feet when this particular applicant would have no bearing either way. Why as a township would we set any sort of precedence? Planning members?
Staff just wanted to put that out there because the conditional use regulations in the A1 district, put a set of setbacks in place. And since this is going through under conditional use, we have to look at those setbacks as well. But erring on the side of the more stringent setbacks are probably wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
I agree. So as long as saying that this is an agricultural isn't going to cause Bob to have to go back and draw new lines on this, because I'm looking at this plan right now, and this actually looks very well planned out and very well set back as it is right now. As it's drawn right now, we're not going to affect anything if we go with saying it's agricultural. They're not going to have to shift anything, are they?
Doug, is that accurate? If we just keep it 100, then this applicant, nothing changes.
And from what Mr. Myers has told us, they're fine with it being the agricultural setbacks, which are larger front setback of 100 feet, and the side yard setbacks increasing as well.
Okay.
I'm inclined to say then let's keep it as it is.
Keep it at 100. Yeah.
Agreed.
Ken, is there anything else we need to discuss on this in addition to the setbacks?
As I said, we discussed parking. If you want to talk to Mr. Myers about parking a little bit, you can. With the information that staff was provided, we felt that the parking that they provided should be adequate for the site because it's, there probably isn't the number of people walking through the door at an equine, hospital that there is at a standard veterinary office.
Well, I guess my question on parking is, so the people who are coming are going to be, driving a truck and a horse trailer. So factoring that in, I presume it's still, in your opinion, sufficient, as well as the turnarounds, loops and everything else on the facilities.
Yeah, the trailer parking area is right adjacent to the riding arena. If you look, there's an area close to where they were just moving the cursor over by the riding arena toward the horseshoe of the arc. Right up in there. So that's where the trailer parking facility is. The vehicle parking for cars and so forth is right down adjacent to the hospital facility.
Yeah.
It looks like to me that if we're just talking about regular car parking, we're not talking about semi-tractor trailers or big trucks and things like that. That next to the equine hospital right there, that to me looks like it's sufficient. The only question, concern, and comment that I have about the loop is this loop large enough to get a 40-foot full tractor trailer loop able to do it without having any problems?
It should be able to. I mean, we on the west side there, I added some gravel on the inside for the back trailer tires, radiuses to be able to get in, because they're just going to swing in further. But in short, I mean, like an equine hospital is not like a normal, dog, small animal, vet where you spend your time there with your animal, you take them home with you. There you show up, you unload it, the vet does their eval, the person goes home and comes back a couple days later, in the event that they traveled, she wanted to provide a couple, there's like, I think 3 stalls where they, somebody can back their trailer in, unhook it, go stay at the local hotel for a couple days, and then come back, get their trailer, load their horse up and, head home. But in short, she will not, get very many, people coming in, once in a while, she said you'll get maybe one person a day coming in to pick up a prescription for, one of their horses, but it's not something that you see, a lot of, traffic, on a daily basis coming in and out of there.
Bob, do we have any other questions on that before I move on to something else? Bob, do we have any lighting out at the road on Buffalo Run?
No, we don't.
No, the only lights are across the street in my development, which are directly across from the driveway.
Uh-huh.
And they're not terribly bright. They're kind of, more shining on the sign and just kind of showing you kind of more just ambiance. They're not like a street light for brightness.
Is this a 24-hour facility where people would be bringing their horse at, I don't know, 1 a.m. or when it's dark?
Yes, this could be it would be equivalent to an urgent care. I mean, if something was coming in and it needed surgery immediately, yes, it would be, a 24-hour. Anything that could be scheduled would be scheduled during normal hours, but ultimately there would be a call,
I don't have a strong opinion on lighting on 550, but does anyone else?
I would prefer there not to be like a big street light type thing, but I think they should, for their own insurance purposes, probably have lights on either side of their driveway, because in the dark, if you don't have a moon, it's
dark.
It's dark out here. So it would probably be good for them to do that. Just
I
to
think so too.
outline where that is, especially, when the weather gets snowy, for vehicles who are coming in through here who are not familiar.
Well, I'm a big proponent of dark sky initiatives, so when it comes to lighting, but I'll leave that up to Ken and staff to make a determination if the lighting is appropriate or inappropriate for their services. The last question I have, and this is only comes out of the realm of having dealt with it before, is there enough space for a helicopter to land in that open space, or is that not actually open space?
Well, Bill, do horses go on helicopter?
I have seen one lifted.
I would imagine, I'd have to look into it, but I would think between the equine hospital and the arena, it would be large enough to land a helicopter.
Or at least land the underslung horse. Just stupid questions to ask, just because I've seen it, and when you see it, you just sort of scratch your head and go, how are you going to deal with that if it ever happens again? But it's not something that you ever plan for, because it's not something that happens daily. All right. Brian, what do we need to do on this?
We need a motion.
I am...
Hang on. In terms of lighting at the driveway, staff does not have the discretion. It's not required by the code, so staff doesn't have the discretion to tell the applicant to put it in or not. If the planning commission would like to see it, planning commission's got three options. They can require lighting at the driveway, they can suggest lighting at the driveway, or they cannot require, they can leave the issue sit where it is, which is there's nothing there. So planning commission should land on one of those options.
Well, then I would make a motion that we suggest lighting.
Yeah, I think suggesting is strong enough.
And then leave it up to them to make the determination.
Yeah, I agree.
Chances are most of their business is going to be in the daytime anyway, I would imagine.
Well, also you have to understand that if you have people coming from all over, we'll just say New York, south of us, east of us, and west of us coming here, you don't know when that injury occurs, and you don't know how long they've been on the road. So
that's true.
So, you know, if you're showing up, you could be showing up at 5 o'clock. And if we take a look outside right now, it's dark.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I think lighting is a good idea. I personally would like to see something that is more dark light friendly, meaning that, or dark skies friendly, but I am not going to push for any sort of regulations. I'll just make a strong suggestion. But yeah, with that thought that we're going to be having that, I would just put a suggestion in that they consider lighting, and you know, beyond that, unless somebody wants to make a stronger suggestion and require lighting.
No.
Oh, I was just gonna say, Sharon, since you live near that property, are you comfortable with that as, just?
Yeah, if they were just to have, I think it would be a safety factor for them to have something, but it wouldn't have to be anything like really bright, lighting up the sky, because I don't want that either. I mean, part of the reason we love it out here is because of, it's rural nature. So but they would want to have something to shine up on their signs, and that it would probably be good for them to have something on either side. Just they probably would want to for the visibility for clients, and I would think it would bring down their insurance rates a little bit for safety or something. So I don't want anything like, no street lights.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, you got a comment? Go ahead.
If they have a sign on each side of the driveway, they can be lit with downlighting.
Right.
From above instead of shining up.
Which is what we have at the front of our neighborhood. Yeah. It's
Well, I think the motion, when we need a motion, I think it then, I don't know if it sounds like from the opinions that are shared is lighting is preferred, but we don't want to light the sky up. So why don't we have a motion that kind of might say something along those lines?
Yeah, Brian, I think a motion that says we accept it as is with a suggestion for lighting, with that lighting being
limited to their side of the property, or
I was
their
going to
side of the
say
road.
within the guidelines of of a dark skies initiative, and I'd have to find something that could actually be referenced so that we're not referencing something straight out of like thin air. And
let's call it discreet.
Yeah.
Anyone, do we have that motion that we can make sense of it, Nicole?
Yes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Nay? So moved. Okay, Next is the status report on pending items. Who wants to bring us up to speed? No planning and zoning items.
Yep.
All right. Pending items on workforce tasks. On work tasks. What's going on with the airport district? That's on hold.
Well, it's pending funding, which is hopefully in 2022.
That's pretty good then. The plan submission deadline for the February 1st planning meeting was January 1, 2021. How about reports?
This is where I figured we would put in the Housing Task Force reports, but we are not going to officially be meeting until February, so we don't have one yet.
Thank you. Any other business?
We do need volunteers for board rep for May, August, September, and October. If anybody'd like to volunteer for those months, that's where you get to come to the Board of Supervisors or show up on their Zoom.
I emailed Nicole about taking over the May and the August one, so I think we're only down to 2.
We have September and October, September 22nd and October 13th.
Any volunteers for the September 22nd, October 13th? I'll go ahead and take October 13th. So now we have one more outstanding, which is September 22nd. Anybody, has anyone not taken a meeting here?
I have not, but I don't have any open dates for these that are available.
No problem.
I could take it tentatively, but I am planning, I wanted to keep September and October a little more flexible, hopefully to do some traveling back to Utah. So I don't know.
Well, let's just leave it open for now, and we'll ask again in a couple of months.
Yeah, if we haven't been vaccinated, I'm staying put and I'm happy to go.
Hopefully it's going. All right. I make a motion to adjourn.
Now, do we stay on for the work task?
Yep, stay on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, we all don't log off and run away and then come back.
All right. Done with our meeting. Now on to our planning work session.
All right, so this first item here is just me kind of organizing and formalizing what we talked about in December at the end of 2020 to get some new work session tasks. So I picked out the ones that I would hope that we can make some decent ground on in 2021, if not complete. So I've just kind of put together this little chart for everyone and help keep us organized. Don't really need any action on this or anything, but if you guys want to talk about it, we can. It's just kind of my way of putting that out there for you guys to see. And sign ordinance is first up. So if no one wants to talk about it, we can move right along.
What is it? I guess the sign.
Oh yeah, sorry, Sharon. I guess you weren't a part of the discussion. So we talked at the end of December about what new items we wanted to work on for our work session. We need to work on updating the sign ordinance. There's a court case, Reed versus the town of Gilbert in Arizona, that talks about content neutral signage. And so we need to make sure we go through our sign ordinance and bring it up to compliance with that court case that happened a few years ago. So that's going to be our top priority to work on. And then we also discussed a couple other things, EV charging infrastructure, kind of working on looking at what we have and what we could write into our regulations to encourage such infrastructure and following the trends. We do seem to be trending more towards electric vehicles and making sure that we have those facilities available and that we're asking people to supply them. It's kind of looking at all that. And then the same thing with kind of the bicycle parking, looking at the regulations that we have and adding in bicycle parking regulations.
Oh, regulations. Okay.
Hey, Ken, question for you. The EV charging infrastructure. So, I don't know for the planning commission if you guys are aware, but at the sheets on near the colonnade, so that would be near Target. They're putting in a charging station now for vehicles. My question for Ken is, Ken, if we would have had this guidelines in place, what difference would there, how much easier would it be now for this charging station to be installed? So I'm really asking, are we being counterproductive by not having this in place?
I guess the one question probably that's going to come up, because the Tesla stations that are being installed along Colonnade Boulevard at the existing sheets, those are being installed by Tesla. They've picked out locations throughout the country and they've been installing, charging stations. Part of the allure of buying a Tesla is you get free charging when you buy a brand new car. You can travel across the country and charge it for free. So I don't know if they're going to allow other individuals to charge at those chargers by, with a cost. I don't know if they're going to have adapters for other vehicles. But I was contacted by an engineering firm looking at the Valley Vista sheets, and they're working with Electrify America, which is a company that installs electrical vehicle charging stations. One of the issues they ran into, they wanted to place the charging stations as you come in off of Valley Vista Drive. They wanted to place them on the right-hand side. There's about 7 or 8 parking stalls as soon as you pull in. But their issue at that point in time is those EV charging stations they would put at that location would be within the setback. So I'm not sure they're going to go back to the drawing board, I think, and take a look. But that's something, if you're talking about EV charging stations, you might want to look at in the future, how we look at setbacks versus EV charging stations.
Good to know. And Ken, and for Sharon and Bill, who are a little newer, I felt to the Planning Commission, we had talked about this just a few years ago. We had a consultant come in and speak to us. What become of that? Can anyone refresh my memory?
I think they were looking at, waiting for the market forces to push it into where it's necessary. Because as we see right now, with the Tesla charging stations that have been installed at the sheets on Colonnade Boulevard, that's a huge undertaking on their part. So they must feel that, it's a benefit to their customers to have that. And I'm sure it is, because it's right adjacent to Interstate 99. If somebody's heading to New York, they're probably going to be on that route.
Correct. Well, I think that's, I think it's certainly worthy to have on our agenda, and I think it's exciting to be able to explore it further. Bicycle parking. So what were we kind of talking about in that regard?
Looking at potentially requiring it in different areas and what we would want to require. So just kind of taking an overall look at our bicycle parking and potentially adding requirements for such.
Nicole, the sign update, that doesn't sound like that would be a big undertaking. Am I correct to think we could knock that out pretty quick?
No. Gonna take, it's a complete rewrite. We're gonna scrap what we have, basically start over.
And so Doug, none of the surrounding municipalities have tackled this yet?
Yeah,
they have.
Yeah, go ahead, Nicole.
College Township has, I found out Ferguson Township recently has, and the borough is in process.
Now, what kind of signs are we talking about?
Everything.
So, do we just want to move on to the sign? I mean, because there's not a lot here anyway, but if everyone's done with the list. So the court case really focuses on the content of signs and having regulations not limiting what a sign can say necessarily, but it's it gets a little fuzzy with other precedent and other court cases that have been decided regulating signage. So that's where it kind of gets a little bit more tricky. I myself am not perfectly versed in what this court case says. I started looking into it over the last few weeks. So I intend on digging into it more and looking at College Township and Ferguson. And I've been in contact with the planning department at the borough, and they're using the American Planning Association's model. So I'm going to look at that as well. So I started to pull in some resources, and that's kind of where I stand with it, with everything else that I've been kind of dabbling in and setting up our housing task force and all of that. So I haven't really got to dig into all of the nuances that this is going to entail, but Doug is correct that it's going to be a complete overhaul of what we currently have. So it's probably going to take some time.
Oh yeah, because that could be very expensive, could it not?
It won't be. No, we're not changing the signs. We're changing the regulations for changing regulations. So
yeah, but doesn't that then the township has to pay for?
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's part of the analysis is, you know, we don't want to make everybody who already has signs unconforming. So part of the analysis that Ken and Nicole will have to go through is, what do we have now? And if we change, what effect does that have on everybody? But it will affect, you know, the yard signs you put in your yard. And we'll have to figure out, you know, how we manage all the different things people want to put up in their yards. But that's the result of this case was we can have one set of rules, but they have to apply to everyone. I think we can do it zoning district by zoning district. We can treat commercial districts differently than residential districts. But for a residential district, if we say each lot gets so many square feet of signs, that'll be the same for the guy who's got a house on 6,000 square feet and the church that's got 2 acres. So that's where the challenges will come in.
Okay, I get it.
How do we be equitable so we treat everybody as fairly as possible and work through all these permutations of, you know, how many signs and how big a signs is appropriate.
Doug, I got a political hot button for you.
Sure.
Would we also talk about political signs? So when an election is over with, is there a certain amount of time where the political signs would disappear? Is this also something that would be discussed in this sign ordinance?
That I don't know. I don't know how it will affect political signs. I think it will at some point. We've been pretty much hands-off political signs for the last 20 years. So I don't know. Well, Nicole on her list will be, you know, what options do we have for political signs?
I think political signs are a First Amendment issue, and mine's not coming down until January 20th.
Well, no, this whole court case is a Supreme Court case based on the First Amendment, which says, and we'll end up at some point, Jim, and it'll say you can have X number of signs on your property not to exceed a total of X square feet. And you'll be limited to that too. So, you know, today you can put as many political signs as you want in your yard and township's not going to say anything. Per this court case, we have to set limits that are the same for everybody and enforce them.
So it would affect the number of political signs, but we haven't talked about the duration of the political sign.
I don't know how that, I'm sure somebody's dealt with it and we'll be looking at how they did it.
Looking at
in the past, typically people have been very good in the past about picking them up. They were less good this year, and it was just certain candidates. It's each candidate's responsibility to go back and pick up their own signs.
Yeah.
You know, some candidates took them a couple of weeks, but they all more or less disappeared. I don't know. Ken, did you end up picking any up or?
We haven't picked any up. We usually, as Doug said, we've kind of been hands off for 20 years because we don't want somebody to feel that we're supporting one side or the other.
Yeah, that's actually what made me inquire about it, because the local elections, they seem to disappear quickly. So I didn't know if there might be something different for the national election.
Just each candidate's organization.
Very
They're
good.
they put them out and they're supposed to pick them up.
To be continued.
My question on our current, sign code is, do we have anything that's regulating the content of the sign? Because that appears to be the main issue and the main crux is you cannot regulate the content of the sign.
Well, yeah, our current code currently separates signs into two categories: commercial speech, let's say that, and then everything else, which is generally considered First Amendment speech.
Yeah,
So,
and commercial speech can be regulated.
No, we just have to treat commercial the same as everybody else.
No, you don't. Commercial speech can be regulated.
Go read versus Town of Gilbert.
Reading it right now.
Okay, yeah, we can regulate it, but all non-commercial speech in that district is also be treated the same. So it might not make a whole lot of difference in the commercial districts. It'll probably make more difference in the residential districts, but we'll have to work through all those. Yeah, you can still regulate. You can regulate all signs, but you can't differentiate in the content. So if in District A, people can have 5 signs and 200 square feet, that's what they get. And we don't care what it says. It can say, buy my house, or it can say, vote for me. Either one's okay. All we're looking at is number and size of signs.
It's a little ironic. I started this conversation by saying, well, the sign ought to be easy. We could knock that out in a hurry. I'll retract that statement. Any other discussion? Or should we conclude our work session?
That's it.
Well, one thing I would toss on there is maybe we should add a dark skies initiative for lighting, because if we're going to be rewriting the whole entire sign code, it'd be nice to have something where we can dictate the lighting of those signs.
What is that? What is dark?
So we already require all downlighting. Everything's got to be cut off.
Oh, okay.
Everything has to be 90-degree cutoff fixtures, as well as the light emitted at the property line is supposed to be 0-foot candles.
Okay.
But we can put together some information about our illumination standards too, just to bring that forward.
Because one day in the future, I would really like to look up and actually see a lot more stars than I currently can see from my property, which is out.
I know. Wouldn't it be great to be able to actually use a telescope?
Yeah, but coming from California, where the light pollution is very, very bad, I'm happy with what I have. I would just like to have more, and I think if we can have sensible lighting, that would help us in that direction.
Yeah, I agree.
I just think the interesting thing about this Reed case is actually it's a 9-0 decision.
Yeah. And, I was just curious about what are the main parts of our current sign code that, need to be changed as, the top priority over some other aspects. I don't need the answer to that tonight. I was just curious about that based on the court case.
Very good.
It's just bringing it into conformance with the court case, so we don't get somebody come in and say we're not current with the law, and therefore they're going to do whatever the hell they want. So, and then having to fight that in court for.
So we pretty much need to take a look at every part of our current sign ordinance and rewrite mostly every aspect to bring everything that we currently have in alignment with the court case is what you're saying.
That was my first read.
Okay.
That it's going to be fairly significant change. I mean, I don't, it may not change much for the commercial people who are, you know, we'll try to keep it as close to the same as we can for them, but I don't know what all ramifications it'll have until we start getting into it.
Yeah, as long as we don't start seeing billboards.
No, we currently limit severely billboards, and I don't think we have to. Again, it's mostly an equity issue that we'll have to look at and see. And I don't know what mechanisms we have available to write our regs around, but that's what Nicole and Ken can work on over here, get started on. Maybe hopefully for the next meeting, we can at least have the maybe the College Township regs, and we can kind of walk through that and talk about how